You're on mute, Mark.
And now I'm not. Hey, everybody. It's Sunday, March 9th, and this is Tinderbox Meetup with Michael Becker. I'm Mark Bernstein, the Tinderbox developer, and this week is the first week of summertime in the US, but not in the EU. So we're having a little bit of time travel coordination, but we're going to have Detlef Beyer in a while on integrating ChatGPT with Tinderbox plus a special surprise. And until then, here's Michael Becker.
Yeah, hi everybody. And in worst case, Detlef will show up in 55 minutes, and we'll have 30 minutes with him. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, he'll see his emails. Welcome everybody. So typically, the way we run the meetups is we go around the room and new people introduce themselves. We don't see anybody new today. So then what we'll do is we'll dig into any projects, topics that people are working on, and then we'll drive into a theme if we have one. And today we do have a theme. It's AI with and as Mark just pointed out, a special idea or present from Detlef, but he's not here yet. So we'll fill the gap until he shows up. So does anybody have any? I don't see anybody new. So let's go around the room for anybody have any projects, thoughts, ideas that they're working on? Who's got something they've got going on? Obviously, I always have something happening. So
I mean, Michael Becker has something, right?
yeah, there's never a week without something going on. So I'll happily share some of that. But let's see if anybody else has anything first.
I'll
I
just,
have,
great.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that I'm going to shortly provide a few updates to the diagram tool that I introduced last week. One of the features will be to try and make it easier to add a bunch of notes at once in bulk to a diagram, which I know I run into that problem. I thought other people would as well.
Nice.
But we're going to continue working on that, and I hope to have some updates this week.
Awesome. Mr. Bruce.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my question is, in working on the book, I did the unthinkable. I went through a treasure trove of photographs, articles, and letters that we had in storage, and came across a voluminous amount of information that I'm planning to go into my office and scan it into images. So I will have perhaps 100 images. And of course, I'm going to want to link it up to Tinderbox as part of my resources and notes. Other than the obvious of, I'm going to just do it one at a time and that type of thing, I'm wondering if there might be any bulk methods or anything that would make the process a little smoother.
A process of what, Bruce? Sorry.
Linking
Process of scanning your images or process of using your images in Tinderbox?
the latter.
Okay. There are, but let's see if anybody else. I have tons of opinions on working with media in Tinderbox. So, what would you? Does anybody else want to comment, or do we want to have me just viscerally react?
Look, the book is a memoir,
Correct.
roughly speaking. And so these are photographs of documents or photographs of portraiture, parties, vacations,
So it's
candids.
no photographs of my brother, photographs of a couple of legal documents, but mostly that. And then most amazingly, I learned that my older sister who had passed was a pack rat beyond belief. And every birthday card, every letter ever received, and certain and letters between my brother and my sister also materialized. So anyway, so there's little snippets in there that I just have a feeling, since it's a memoir, if I were to extract and have an image of that handwritten portion, that might actually add something to the book.
Yeah. So, and a biographer's dream, a trove of previously unknown primary sources.
Yes, there we are.
Um, since it's only 100, you could, of course, just import them into Tinderbox by dragging them into Tinderbox and dropping them, or pasting them into text panes of notes to which you've given suitable titles, since you know what the thing is. That's not doable for 1,000, but it's viable for 100.
Makes sense.
But Michael has a different approach, which has real attractions.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if it's a different approach or real attractions, but there's a couple ways to do it. And one way I would think is, and I just quickly looked up on ChatGPT to get the answer. So one way you could do is run a command line that says, go copy the paths for all of these images in this directory. And then using the methods I've shown you before, and I can get, as a previous cohort, I can give you some code on that, Bruce, to then render those images, in your Tinderbox file by pulling them via the path of the image sitting on your hard drive. So the problem you're looking to solve here is, how do you copy and get 100 paths for 100 images, drop that into a note, and then you can have a Tinderbox action code that would then go populate that path into the appropriate images. And we could demonstrate that really quick now, if we wanted to play around with that.
You know what? I don't need it yet because I'm not there, and I don't want to take time away from other things. But this is helpful information as far as it goes. So what I would propose, let me get the images scanned in first.
Yeah.
And then once I have them ready to go, then, next week, the week after, if there is time, that might be a more appropriate, use, because then it would be timely.
Yeah, and again, for me, it would be probably, my guess is it'd be about an hour's, less than an hour's worth of work from start to finish. In other words, figure out how to copy n number of paths for images sitting on your hard drive, and we'll find a utility to do that. Either we'll use command line or Hazel or something like that. Drop those paths into Tinderbox, then run an action script that would populate those paths into, say, a media path attribute, and then you render those in your image string within your notes.
Okay.
And so it's not a complex process. It would probably take me less than an hour to show you how to do it.
And so conceivably, if I properly have my paths set up and I name my files, the action code in Tinderbox then could put it in the right bucket, if you will, based on that information.
Right, and so and it's interesting, I have another subset of action code that will actually break image paths up. So like, here's your media file, here's your media directory, here's the general bucket of where all my images are. And it kind of automatically handles that. And then there's another method that I'll share with you, where you basically copy the file name and then paste that into using an include to wherever you want that image in your book, and the image automatically shows up. So it's actually really straightforward.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? This answers my question for now. I don't need a detailed how to. The idea that there are some different possibilities, because I just wasn't, you've already advanced my thinking on how it would go. I doubt that I could do most of that by myself. I would pick with Mark's manual method, but I'm interested in giving that a try.
Yeah, okay. I'll probably, now that it's in my head, and I'm already working on a media visualization class or course. So I will, now that it's in my head, I'm sure I'll find some time to pull it together.
And actually, I'm going to impose upon people. I just got a letter yesterday, or an email yesterday, from the person who was the guru of my brother's products, and asking, this all happened because he had some health issues, has some serious health issues, and so he took down the website. He's in London, and he knows how to repair any of my brother's products. So speakers and turntables primarily. And so anyway, he has now resurrected the site, found a partner, is mentoring the partner, and as part of the website, he wanted some pictures from me. And so that's how this little pebble turned into a snowball and took about 6 hours yesterday. That was just breaking through another wall of my childhood. I learned things from when I was 2 years old just now that I never knew. So it was fascinating. But what I'll do is I'll pop the website in just so people have an idea of what it is that I was talking about, if that's okay. So anyway, I'm done. I see other hands up, Michael, and I'm happy
Perfect.
to happy to
Mr.
relinquish the floor.
And we've got Detlef, so thanks for responding to the email, Detlef. So as soon as we're Mark and Peter are done, we'll go from there.
Thanks.
I just quickly sort of responding on the point about ways to put things in. It's also considering whether you want to put the images in the note or link to it. And if you want to link to it, there are two ways you can do it, either using a file attribute or a URL attribute. So that you can have a note that effectively stands proxy for the image that's on your hard drive. And if you want to look at it, you just click the button in displayed attributes, for instance, and it'll pop open for you in whatever, normally probably something like preview would most likely.
Interesting point. At the moment, what I've done, Mark, which I don't usually do, is I've taken any of my online resources and I have organized them into a single local file. A full folder, excuse me. And then the folder, of course, has subfolders for piecing things apart. And I figure, all I have to do is drag it into something like Google Drive or Dropbox, if I wish, and then I have a local version and I have an online version of it.
Yep, and you can also point, if you're using the file type attribute, you can also point to a folder, and that will cause Finder to open up. And if you have the display of Finder set to say thumbnails, again, it's just a quick way back into it. So there are lots of ways to cut this about, and certainly basically, if you have a list of the files or the paths, that's a very quick way to you can easily sort of generate 100 notes. You can just take a list, drop it into Tinderbox, you'll get something. You might need to post-process some of the information you get in to get into the particular fields you want, but it's not an overly complex or onerous task to do. And if there are sort of issues to exactly how you slice and dice the text to get the bits you want, the community can help with that. So thanks.
And the one thing I might add to that, though, what I'm hearing is that he's looking to publish the book. So like using the file attribute's great, but that only lets you kind of gain access. It kind of gets you to the path, but it doesn't necessarily help you with the include insertions as cleanly.
True, although
there's different. It could work, but there's different strategies on that.
I mean, it certainly does. I mean, you don't have to. You can point to an image outside. I mean, you can see that if you look at the PDF version of TBRef, there are none of the image files there are in the TBX. It's all just on var file.
No, I know, but that's what I was saying to Bruce. You pull in the path and then you populate the path into an attribute. You suggest using the file attribute. I think there's some alternative ways to consider that as well.
Well, and whether the book is published through me or, I mean, my goal right now, frankly, and I have a meeting, in fact, tomorrow, about finding an agent. That's the advice that I've been given. I talked about that in this group a little bit. So, a Pulitzer Prize nominated author is willing to talk to me and may have some ideas, and hopefully this will move along because I've gotten myself back into working on it daily, which is the only way it'll get done. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, I was wondering if anyone has tackled the problem of diffing Tinderbox files. Basically, what I found is I had a couple projects where I had them in a Tinderbox file. I have more than one file now from different Macintoshes that have the same name, and I'm wondering if there's an automated way to see what's the same across the different versions of the file and what's different across the different versions of the file. And how would you go about tackling that?
Oh, anybody have an idea?
One suggestion is if you use DevonThink and all you're interested in doing is just finding out, are the two files the same? Put them in DevonThink and it will tell you whether they're truly the same or not.
Well, what I truly want to have would be give the two or more source files, maybe drop them into a folder and have some sort of automation generate a Tinderbox file that consists of the intersection of the source files and another Tinderbox file that lists the differences for each of the files, so that I'd get one file that's here's what's in, file A that's only in file A and not in the other files. Here's what's in file B and not none of the files as a Tinderbox file. And then another one, here's a Tinderbox file that represents what's the same in all of the other Tinderbox files.
Yeah, a desirable capability.
I just quickly add something to make sure, or an assumption to surface before you start is what you mean by different. Because are you just talking about the text of the note? Could you have two copies of the file that have the same note, same text, but maybe a different export template? And there is no right answer to that. So with much power comes much responsibility. So you need to decide before you go down that sort of diffing route exactly what it is what you classify as a difference or not. Otherwise, you just have two problems.
Yeah, differences in the user attribute schema. Maybe I guess I wouldn't care about note position. Notes attribute, the note attribute set, and I'd be willing to maybe like have a list of attributes that I don't care about. So it wouldn't waste time telling me that, note A was at the top left in one version and it got dragged half an inch to the right in another version. I wouldn't consider that.
So what you're saying, what you're therefore repeating back, your first task is to actually work out which attributes you regard as meaningful in terms of change. And it probably won't be a big list. But it's like there are 400 system attributes, so you don't want to be tracking them all. So I would say a useful place to start to save yourself time is before you start decide which of the ones you're really interested, and then that will save you time down the line.
Right. Are we ready to hear from? Okay, and by the way, Bruce, I just figured it out for you. Let me show you this and we'll go. Wait to screen. And then we'll get a lot of Detlef check in. So what you can do this. So I grabbed a bunch of files from my hard drive and I put them into a directory called test image. And then if you use this this string, which basically says find username path, and then you type F, and then you give them whatever variety of number of extensions you have in the image. What that does then is that will then, oops, let's do this. What this will do, just make it clean. So what this will do is you're basically saying, hey, terminal, go out to your directory and grab the paths of the images that are in this directory. Hit that copies those to the clipboard. You then can go ahead and just paste that clipboard in. Now you've got the paths to the images. And then now we just use action code to parse them out. Much like Mr. Anderson said, we either stick it in the file attribute or we stick it in some user-generated attributes. And then from that, you can use includes to include that image. So for example, if we do like this, and we say something like image source equals this, and we got our image. So that's how we'll do it.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Super easy.
Turn the book over to you.
There's other different ways to automate it, but that's the way you do it. So basically, they is get the paths, then populate those paths into an attribute, or just have it dynamically create an image strings, and then you'll place that wherever you want that image to be in your book. And the cleanest way is going to be to do it with an include. You'll do something like this: include, and then give a image. Give the name of the attribute, like media file, and then you give it a template like trender.
Typo, by the way, include.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's not going to work now. But basically, you're basically going to say include the path from the media file attribute, and that could be file, and then the template you want to use to render that string that's coming through.
Oh, I
and
see.
Will be like trender, or actually be more like tmedia, right? And what that would do is it basically wrap that value around an image string and then insert it into your document.
Okay.
That's how that's
Right.
going to work. And it's going to take less than a half an hour now that we've got it up and running to do it for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
So
I'll
your
get-
project now is scan all the images and get them into a single directory. And then after that, we've got a stamp just to do it.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Detlef, you here? Did we lose him?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is.
I missed
The floor is yours.
the sun saving switch. So okay, it's a fun session for today. What I would like to show you, I think probably all of us already played a lot with Chat GPT and other AI engines. And what I'm trying to do is to make a smooth integration into Tinderbox, to use it from within Tinderbox, because Tinderbox is one of the main repositories for my data, and I would like to use it there, not only in ChatGPT in the browser and then copy and paste it myself. I would like to have an interface. I think most of the code I'm using today, at least some, I will do an update, but it's already in the forum and you can access it. But I've tried to explain. I don't know on what level you understand already artificial intelligence, large language model stuff and like this. So I'm doing a quick introduction into this part of what is large language AI and what can you do with it. And so I have to share my screen, freigeben. I think I share my whole desktop, that's easiest. So you see this little diagram I built? Hopefully, okay. What we are talking about today is something a little bit special. It's something, a tool still in beta offered by OpenAI, and it's called the Assistant Framework. And here I go into this a little bit deeper later on. I try to describe what the Assistant Framework will do. But first of all, I show you some examples. So let's switch to my browser. No, I don't need this one. So this is normal ChatGPT interface. As large language model, I'm currently using O3 Mini. It's really important what model you choose. The results will really vary depending on the modules. And in the short term, sorry, you could say that OpenAI ChatGPT is really on the top of the quality of all large language models available. They are really good. It's a very good thing. The problem here is it can be expensive. You have to pay for it, at least $20 a month to use it in Tinderbox, because you need a key for an API, and they will bill you according to the amount of text you send to ChatGPT and what you get back. They call it token. It's a part of a word, a token. And but they are really good. And so for my demonstration for today, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the AI system to create a route for a motorcyclist. That's just an idea I got. That's a very complicated task to do, because the output can be very, very different. And so what I did, the prompt I'm asking here is generate a scenic motorcycle tour from Cologne, my hometown, to Carcassonne, that's in the south of France, and return to Cologne, Germany, and include those two intermediate destinations. And then what I got with my normal output of ChatGPT is this one. Overview, total distances, some blah, 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 eternity, the details, first day, second day, it's a long travel, third, fourth, and so on. Additional recommendations, for example, check your motorcycle. I don't need somebody to tell me, check my motorcycle. I know my motorcycle. I don't need it every day. That's typical for AI. It tries to be smart, but it isn't. And so what I would like to do is to format the output to get more quality into my results and to make the results more predictable, so that I can reuse them. It's really important for Tinderbox that you are defining a format you can work with, so that when you get a return value from ChatGPT, you need to make a action code to work with it, and so you need a defined format. I'm using text output. You can also use JSON as a format. Normally, JSON is the better way to go because there's already a structure in the return value. If you have plain text, it's only plain text. You have to make your own interpretation, but with JSON, you already have a format there. And so I thought about what can I do to make it predictable. The funny thing is, if I would copy my prompt and ask the same thing again, what will happen is I get a different result. First of all, there's a history of my chat system, and it will take into the consideration that what I asked before, I can be more specific. That's always a good strategy for AI, that you first of all get a general idea of a response, and then you try to make it finer in details if you ask more and more questions. But at least the return value is completely different. It can be, if I clean the chat here and would start over again, it can be something completely different. And that's when I started to go into this. This one is called Playground. You see the URL is platform.openai.com. And there in this Playground, what you have is, first of all, very important for us, the API reference. That's the main source for you if you use Tinderbox to build a direct connection to OpenAI. All the samples, everything you need, you have always here a curl sample, and you really can transport this into Tinderbox. It works immediately. It's really more or less easy. There are some obstacles, but it's more or less easy. And you have everything here. It's really
Hey,
very
Detlef,
Yep.
can I interrupt you real quick on that one? On that more or less easy part. Chuck Wade solved a massive issue for me using curl, in that when you're writing your curl command, if you try to do it all in one line, it's really hard to escape the
I'll show you. I have a
the
solution
comments and all
for you.
that. Yeah, so if you can comment on that, because doing it line by line is so much easier.
Yeah. You really get confused, at least with the
quotes.
Quotes. You can mix it with the quotes. Sometimes you have quotes in your text. You have single quotes, double quotes. This can be at least very frustrating when building this. I show you how I did it, and I also pasted in the code. I built a small helper function for curl, and it's now specific for AI, but you can use it for everything whenever you use curl, and it makes it much easier to work with it. And now back to the Playground. What I really like is this concept of assistants. I don't know whether you know it already. If not, I'm making you a short introduction into this assistant framework. An assistant for OpenAI is a part of the large language models that knows what you would like to do it. So you can pass complicated or longish instruction into this assistant, and the system will reuse it every time you ask something. So if I, for example, I already entered a very long description, system instructions, what the assistant should do. And now if I enter the same phrase I entered before and run it, here, the output will be different, but the output will be much more in a format I like to use and I asked for. So an assistant is helping you to structure the output and get the same quality all over again. And that's really important for using it with Tinderbox, that you have a more predictable return value. It takes some time. The longer the instructions are, the more it has to rebuild your prompt and think about it. Hopefully we will get an answer. Ah, there it is. And so, for example, I ask for table data. I have a multi-day route summary, and I would like to have it in the table. I also told it I would like to have it in Markdown language. So the format is something I can use already. You could also tell him something else, but I would. So the waypoints where I go are there as a table, and I told the system I would like to have a table like this. I would like to have a table with highlight and stops, accommodations, and so on. You see, it's a complete different work than what we have had before, and with the same engine. It's the same engine. And that's and also here I get my GPX data to enter to use it in a travel system. I still wouldn't use it for a real tour with my motorcycle because I still would like to choose my path, but that's only for demonstration. And so what I have, and everything I show you here, we can use from Tinderbox easily. And I built something that you can create, maintain, and use the assistants all from Tinderbox. You don't have to even touch OpenAI here. The only thing you need is you need an account and you need an API key. That's your identification, and that's how they will do the billing later on. So you need this API key and copy it to your Tinderbox file, and everything else will run from Tinderbox. You don't need to open ChatGPT anymore. And so to give you an idea about the assistant framework is, the first thing we do is, here is Tinderbox, this is OpenAI. We start Tinderbox, and then I start a thread. A thread is like a history of the chat itself. It's all in one thread. And so the thread has a history, and the thread knows what I asked him before. That's really important. So I will check, is already a thread there? If not, I create one. And I get a thread ID to refer this thread later on. If it's there, I can go on and do my assistant stuff. So I'm looking for, is an assistant already there? If not, create an assistant. And then I get an assistant ID, and that I can use in my later calls to open ChatGPT. It's a very simplified way of seeing it. And if I have this, what I do is I have a message. A message normally for me is the text of a note. And I see, okay, is this a message already running? If not, I create a new message and start a new run. A run is a concept that's really making things complicated later on in the programming. I like it much. I like it. I really like it, but it's asynchronous. How do you say asynchronous? Asynchronous. It's not. You send a message to the system and it will respond immediately. It will respond sometime, any time later. You don't know when it will answer. This is complicated because what you do is you create a run and tell the system, here's my prompt, please give me an answer. But you don't know when the answer will be there. And so what you have to do is check the run. Is the run finished? No? Okay. Check the run again later, not immediately, sometimes later. Is it finished? Yes. Okay. Then get the last message of my thread, because it's like a chat system. The last message is a message by the system. The message before was your prompt, and the last message is a response by ChatGPT. So I'm getting the last message, create a new node. You can do whatever you want now. It's in Tinderbox here. And then you are finished. And so let's take a look how it looks in Tinderbox. So what I did here is, for example, here I have some destinations. I made a very easy node. It's here is my command. generate a scenic motor tour from Cologne to blah, blah, blah. I can also remove it. The system will rebuild it immediately from here, my start and my destination. And that's the prompt I will send over to ChatGPT. And you have to look down here in the left corner because there is my show interface. You know, this.
We don't see that, by the way, Detlef. When you're showing just the app, that's not popping up, the show interface.
It's not popping up. Okay, because I'm having shared my desktop. Maybe I don't know. Now I'm telling the system OpenAI copy ready is not true, is false. Now it will resend the message, and then you don't see. You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's asynchronous. It's running in the background. So, for example, I can do as many as as I want in parallel. I can send all them. I can set all the nodes to false here. OpenAI copy ready, and it will process them one after another. If it checks the run is finished, okay, next one. And there is I show you the programming later on. There is a system that's the most complicated part of the whole system, that it's checking in the background. Do I have time? Is everything finished? Is it there? Are the results there? And now if I look in the final node, if the node would not, now it finished. It's completed. And now I got the complete response here, as you saw it before in the ChatGPT interface. And if you take a look here, let me see, open with marked 2. So, whoop, this is the output we just received. Just exported from Tinderbox with the preview function. That's really looking nice, and it's exactly what I wanted to have it look like. And that's because of the assistant. And here, the travel master, I don't find a better word. This is my assistant instruction. So here, everything is there. For example, I need an introduction, briefly explain the highlights. At least I would like to have the waypoints, and everything is in this set of rules. And if I create a new assistant, what I can do, I can show you, I can, for example, delete the assistant here. And then I can say stamp, create assistant. Swoop, now the assistant is there, new assistant created, and it's stored here. It's an ID. That's a thread ID, and the assistant ID is here. But if you use the code, you don't have to take care about this. You can hide all the attributes. It will immediately run. You only need to think about the stems I'm using here. That's the code you should look into. There's something to create a thread, create a new assistant, and create a message. That are the most important things to do. You can, for sure, you can also delete an assistant, delete a thread, whatever you like. The lifetime of them is unlimited. So if you create an assistant, it will be there tomorrow too. It will not be reduced or removed, not reduced, removed. That's the major. The good thing about assistants is this rule set, this here. You have to play around with it until it works. The funny thing is, I don't know how to solve this, but it is like this. The responses, if you use ChatGPT in the browser, are still different from what you get through the API. That's a known thing with ChatGPT. The results in the browser, if you use ChatGPT directly, are better than what you get through the API. I don't know what they are doing there. They are limiting the resource. We are using the same model. You can here use whatever model you like. It uses it. It will register it together with the assistant. So you could do it how you like it, whatever you like. But it still gives different results, smaller, shorter, and not so precise than what you get online in the browser. And so I now it's complicated always to do it. Hopefully I'm able to at least give you an idea about the programming. Here, this node called CAI Assistant, I will paste this to the forum some days later. The first version of it, it's version 1.1, but the first version is already there in the forum. You can use it. It will do most of the stuff I showed you here. And so here are, I tried to make them small, the functions. For example, this is create an OpenAI assistant, delete OpenAI assistant. I always use this underline DB here, this part, to have something like a namespace. So if I would create a function that nobody else would then have the same name for a different function. So I add my initials to each function. That's only, I don't want to be prominent. It's only to avoid a conflict with a function that is named in the same way. And here is delete Open Assistant. They are really, that's something we need much more time to look into those functions in detail. I made a longish explanation already, a help file you can look into, but that's everything. I'll show you something else later on with my surprise feature. And you have, for example, this is create, delete the assistant, build OpenAI assistant is something, if there is no model, it should be bulletproof. I think it's possible to make the error handling a little bit more consequent and better than what we have today. But beside of that, it really works with hundreds of nodes, no problem. You always have to take care. Choosing the language model in ChatGPT is important according to the costs. All the latest models, GPT 4.5, is much more expensive than, for example, O3 Mini. You really should look into the price table, otherwise it could be a very ugly surprise. It's not like hundreds of dollars, but it goes fast. That if you are having a large Tinderbox file with thousands of nodes, and you say, I got the new assistant interface by Detlef, and let's send all the nodes and see what's going on, then there will be amount you have to pay for it. So take care. And choosing the model is really depending. It really depends what you would like to do and what answer you would like to have. And then it's long. It's really long. I don't think we can do it today as a sample to go through all this. It should work and run like it is. You don't have to touch anything in the code normally. It is encapsulation. How is it the verb? I encapsuled the stuff in a way that you can use it. So if you copy this file, take a look into the stems, because the stems is all you need. You don't need anything else. Just look into the stems and try to see what is he doing here for create an assistant. Then you have to know first, before I can use an assistant, I have to create a thread, I have to create an assistant, and then I create a message in this step 1, step 2, step 3 thing. And everything else will work immediately. Another nice thing here is, I call it showstopper. I really like this show interface here in the bottom. This is different or independent from my open ChatGPT stuff. It is a very small script to handle as many messages you send to the show interface, and it collects them. So if I think the maximum is 3 lines for a message. If there are more, it takes them back, it stores them, and if if a specific time interval has run out, it will send a new show message. So this helps to use this show interface a little bit. This one, and the AI task force, I don't know whether I leave it into the file. This is specific to this file. That's my way. The CI assistant. This is very general stuff. Just copy it into your file and use it. The CI, I named it task force, is specific to my task I'm solving in this Tinderbox file. So here I'm using everything that is inside of this file. So maybe this one is like the stamps, something you could look into and try to understand it. What is he doing to make this happen? That if he clicks, deselects this, what will happen now? New message sent, new AI run created. Everything is running in the background. If I now hit this and say, okay, grant Alps, I want this 202, nothing will happen because there's already a run running. If the first one has been finished, then the second one will start immediately. And that's everything is running in this AI thing. This task force is only there to deal with those nodes here and to use the interface I showed before. And I will paste it and do a node with larger comments later on in the forum. Any question? Otherwise, I will step over because it's really related, my surprise for today, and I show you the second part of my demonstration for today. But if there are any questions, please. You don't have to, but you can.
Well, first off, awesome. Can't wait to play with it.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
I stepped over somebody who had a comment.
I had a comment. Just Tinderbox, to me, I just stepped in and eat my bagel here, by the way. Tinderbox is sort of acting like an API, right? You're kind of like feeding, you're the front end part of it, Tinderbox as a front end, but you're feeding into this chat GTP library in the background, and you're trying to figure out the actual connections and stuff like that and make it happen. That's pretty cool. Thanks.
Yeah, because Tinderbox is my day-to-day tool. For me, Tinderbox is my I really loved it, and it's my it's my HyperCard 2.0. I really love to use HyperCard. I really loved it. And Tinderbox now is my personal knowledge management system. And I don't want to deal with too many tools. I have it for my work already. And so I try to integrate everything into Tinderbox as far as it goes. And Tinderbox is really flexible in doing stuff like that. So I really like it, like it's working today.
Yeah, great job. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it will get better for today even more. I think the second part you will like more than what you saw so far. Especially Michael will love it. I'm pretty sure. So, without giving you a political annotation here, in Europe we are a little bit skeptic currently about sending data into the US. At least there is one guy dealing with information that don't belong to him, and I'm not pretty sure. So and also we have to pay for using ChatGPT. So what I thought about, what can we do to use a large language model locally on our Mac? As far as your Mac is not the oldest one. It should be a Silicon Mac. Otherwise, things getting a little bit slow. You can run it on an Intel Mac, but it should be a machine with some power and some RAM. And then what you could do, two tools I really recommend to be used. One is called LM Studio, and I show it to you now. And the other one is called AnythingLM. LM Studio, if you don't know it, both are free, open source. Everything is free of charge. With LM Studio, what you could do is you can run any LLM as far as it's public available on your local machine. So what you have here is you can search, and then they look up whatever LLM. These are all different models you can use. And you can use all of them. They are large. If you want to use one of them, you should do it. It takes some time to download them. They are all between 3 and 15 gigabytes. So you need some space on your hard disk, and you need power. And but you can use all of them. There are two formats. One is called GGUF, and one is called MLX. If you find something that fits your needs and is called MLX, that's the one to go, because this one is using the internal hardware of your video card in your Mac. The other one is depending on NVDA stuff, and it's slower. So this one is compiled for your Silicon Mac MLX. That's the one you should choose. You see here on the right side, MLX, GUF, how do you spell it? GUF, and stuff like that. Then what you need to know is there are some cryptic names for those models. For example, DeepSeek, you all heard about the Chinese DeepSeek. It's more or less a copy of ChatGPT, but it's working very well. And you see here that they have this 7B. That's more or less, the higher the number there is, the more parameters the model used while building the model. So for example, there 70B is also there, is much larger than 7B. And the larger the model is, the more accurate the results are. But it needs much more power to be run. So if you don't have a machine with at least 64 megabytes of RAM, you should stay with something like 7B, 8B, and not more. Otherwise, it will take hours to respond to a prompt. The second thing you should look into, just as a very, very quick introduction, is this Q factor here. That's something like quantization. It's like compressing the data of the LLM. The higher it is compressed, the less compression means better results. And so you can click here and you see it's available in Q3, Q4, Q6, Q8. Use something above Q4. Q4, Q6 is very good to go. Then you get good results. Try to avoid using something lower than Q4. It will not be very sufficient in the usage. That's all you need to know. But you can run all of them on your local machine without paying anything for it. So what you can do here now is you have a chat. And now, where is my Tinderbox? Let's get this one. And so you type in here your message, and then, that's bad. I have to load at least one model. I didn't load the model. Let me see. I think to make it work later. Wait, I'm not pretty sure which one I should take at the moment. Let me see. It should have loaded a model. I don't know why it rejected it. Those are the models I downloaded to my machine. So they are all available, and I can take whatever I like to build, to use it. So it's really easy interface. You have here a developer. Here you can see what's happening on the machine. You don't need it. Here are my models. You can with a little bit informations about what's going on here, and I think. I have just a second, then I'll be back. I have to look up something. Okay, hopefully it will do it. Instructs. Text embedding nomic. Where is nomic? I'm looking for one. There it is. Okay. It should be there. I don't know. At least I have stored responses to not struggle anymore with the interface. And so you get the same results more or less than what you got with ChatGPT, but on your local machine. So this is really nice. That's a very nice step, but it's getting even better. Now we get AnythingLM. And AnythingLM is working together with LM Studio. And there's another one is called Olama interface. You can also run it, but it's more should be used by a terminal. It's much more complicated than this one. This one is a click interface, very easy, and you can configure it to your needs. What LMM should be used in the background. Here I'm using LM Studio, but you can also use OpenAI from here. You can use any other LMM, whatever you like. And now the incredible thing for Tinderbox users is it has a vector database. And this vector database, you can embed your own files. So if you are trying to get an answer, you get an answer according to what you loaded as your own data into the large language model. It's not using the large language model like ChatGPT with anything in the world. It's using your own data to answer a question. And that's really incredible together with Tinderbox. You have to think about, you have all your data in Tinderbox and you put it into your vector database, and then you answer a question related to your content and get the answer immediately. And this works perfectly from Tinderbox. So for example, you see here what they call it workspaces. So what I will do now is I will use a stamp and set up AnythingLM. Oh, something happened, but should not. I think I tried it 50 times today. It never crashed. But now let's see. Okay. And now I have to refresh here. And now we get two. It worked for the first time. I have to delete this one. Now what it did is I have to redo it. I don't know which one is the correct one. Let me see. Stems. Set up anything. Okay. Refresh. Now we have a new workspace called Tinderbox Playground. You can name it whatever you like. I created it from within Tinderbox. You don't have to touch anything LM. Everything is doing, Tinderbox is doing. And here you have a thread, like a chat system. And now what I can do is I have those files, some informations about France, where you can go. And now I tell them, okay, please load them into my large language model. And so what we can do here is we can open this one, and then we see something is wrong here. I don't know what's going on. No. Normally they should appear here. I don't know. Let me see if I check this one. Late changes are bad for a demonstration. Okay, let's see. If I do it manually, you see all those three you have here are your local files. And here I call it Tinderbox files. And then from those local files, whatever you have here, you can select them and embed them to be used live. So you can store whatever amount of files you would like in this folder or whatever folder you need. Everything is created by Tinderbox here. And then you can say, okay, please embed them. I want to use them. I want to ask the LLM system using my notes here. And so I click a little bit more here. Boom, 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 boom. And now if I now use this stamp, where is it? Chat anything. I just do, here is my prompt. And there's a type, they have a type chat, it's with a history, and query is only using my own documents, nothing else, nothing, no knowledge out of the large language model. And then you get a result like this. And this is only content related to my own files out of Tinderbox. My Tinderbox notes, everything here is in those notes you see here. It's everything is here. And it's really working very, very easily. I can redo it. I think it should work. Chat, boom. The bad thing at the moment here with the anything is it's not asynchronous. It's a synchronous call. So Tinderbox has to wait for the answer, and sometimes it takes some time to answer a request. But that's how it is today. And then you get the answer like you saw it before. I think it was a new one. Let's see, chat. Or it isn't running at the moment. I don't know. Something is wrong. Text resource closed, true, error, null. Text, there's no relevant information in this. A configuration problem. But anyhow, that's what I'm finishing now. So you get a second interface to use this. And that's really incredible because, for example, I have some Tinderbox files with, I don't know, thousands of nodes. And I can use the large language model to analyze my own data and give me back the results based on my own data on my local machine. That's really incredible. I'm close to finish it. As you see, my error handling is not very stable at the moment, but I will finish this and then it works. And it's very, very easy to set up. You just install those two programs, LM Studio and AnythingLM, for free, and then you are ready to rumble. There's a question, please.
This is Frederick. This is really amazing and really great work, I've got to say. I'm especially enthusiastic about the vector stuff that you've done. I'm trying to think through the use cases and challenge my own imagination, which isn't up to it, I guess. I'm trying to think of use cases where you have notes and use this API versus doing things the manual way of pasting into ChatGPT and saving money by not using the API. This is a great example of the travel. Do you have other examples you're able to share of things that are meaningful?
For example, that's something I'm working on. This is a database of about 141 Portuguese expeditions, people who in the 14th and 15th century went on to discover new from a European perspective, new countries in the world. And so you see, for example, somebody you should know is, yeah, here, Mr. Cabral, he detected the Azoric Islands. It's all in German. Or Joao Cabral, I think he's the one who detected Brazil and something like that. And there's a lot of information there. There is one German historian who did a large research work to name all those people, not only Portuguese, but everybody who detected anything or discovered anything in the 15th, 14th, and 16th century. And I copied all those. I'm not only interested in the Portuguese at the moment here into, and you see there's a lot of text. And now I would like, for example, to find similarities. I would like to find. I'm looking into the speech he's using. I want to see if he's using post-colonial language in his answers or in his descriptions and stuff like that. And I can use now the large language model to analyze my text, but not anything, only my own text, only what I paste into there, I can use now to analyze it and tell him how many people have touched Brazil, for example. Who was the first one? That's very easy to answer, but stuff like that. How does he describe people? Are they any offending vocabularies in there or stuff like that? And what is he using to describe the local people he discovered that were discovered, and what terms is he using and stuff like that? And I can do it on the data, on my own data. That's what I'm trying to do, for example, in this file, just as an example. Yeah, and
Yeah, that's great. And you don't have to parse it or put a database together or do any of that work you would have had to do before.
yeah, or for example, you see here, I have a second line. The same people are there here. And I told the large language model to make a shorter description of the original text, but the large language model should not use its own language, but should try to stay with the language of the author, but still reduce the amount of text here. So that's here. Or for example, here you see here, start here, voyage, target country, nationality, that was all retrieved by the large language model, and then returned to to Tinderbox. And in Tinderbox, I wrote and set the attributes with the values I got from the machine, for example.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And can you using AnythingLM, can you or in the studio, can you feed it multiple Tinderbox files? Not just one?
Yeah,
So
yeah, for
building
sure.
your vector database,
Yeah.
how can you be sending multiple Tinderbox files to it?
Yeah, easy. What I did is you can name this area, the workspace, any name you like, and you can create as many workspaces as you like. So what you could do is you could add a workspace for each Tinderbox file if you like. So you have them separated. You can ask, you are always prompting or discussing or talking to one thread here, this Tinderbox default, that's the thread. You can also have multiple threads within one workspace. So if you have one file, you could ask here a question, and it will only take care into case what's in this workspace, nothing else, and you can have as many as you want. So can have a different workspace with a different Tinderbox. But you can also, if you like, you could also add all your files from all Tinderbox documents to one workspace, because you would like to ask something that is affecting all your files. And then here you have your vector database. And what I'm doing, that's also working fine at the moment, most of the time, I have to tell. You have these vector storage, and I'm creating folders for each Tinderbox file. I'm creating a new folder. So TBX file is just my demonstration thing, but you can add one folder for files for each of your Tinderbox file if you like. You can also put everything in one file. And then here, only those files who are embedded are the files you're working with. If you ask something, the model, it will only use those files, not everything that is in here. For example, you see here, here are many more files. They are not taken into concern. By the way, it's also possible to tell any NLM to use URL, and it will extract the data from the URL, and you can ask later on what's going on this page also. That's also very nice. And so here you can have as many folders as you like, and put as many files in there as you like. I don't know, I'm really working on it at the moment, so I don't know what will happen if there are thousands of files, if there's a memory limit or something like that. I don't know. You have to play around with it yourself. But by the interface, I will copy to the forum within the next 1 or 2 weeks, will allow you to do all this. So you can do it however you like. one workspace, two workspaces, one folder or two folders, all files, only a selection of files, whatever you like.
Awesome.
And the nice thing here is, if you compare it to Olama, it's really a click, drag and drop interface. You have here, that's the most important thing is going on here. Here you have to select a model, and a model that is allowing file embeddings. Not all models allow to embed files. So you have to take care that you choose a model that allows this. And then you have your vector database. You don't have to do anything here. This is your embedder. There is one embedder is the internal embedder. You don't have to do anything to use it. And I think this one is better. Then you are using LM Studio to embed the files. You don't feel any difference from Tinderbox, but I think the results were a little bit better. I don't know. You can also use Olama, whatever you like.
Hey, on the LM Studio, how do you detect the local host?
It's very simple. Where is it? Here. Local host, and it's on port 1, 2, 3, 4. Very creative. You can change this, and you can set it in LM Studio in the prefs. And
okay.
And that's the address you are using. And then what you can see here is here in my anything prefs. Here are all the URLs I'm using to use the API with anything LLM. So you have, for example, you have give me all workspaces, create a new workspace, create a new thread in a specific workspace. Give me all documents, move the files from one folder to another folder, embed the files, chat with the system. You see, these are the URLs I'm using. And now, especially for you, the curl interface, it's here. This function here is used to build the curl interface. And so what you do is you go to any service. It's not limited to anything LLM. And normally what you see is, for example, in OpenAI, you get a sample like this. This is our curl command, use it like this. You get something like this. And that's all you need. And then I do here, you see those placeholders I'm replacing here with my current values. You see, very easy. I use the original string, and whenever I use my own data, I use number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, whatever you like, replace them, and then I build my CURL string here with this. So the only thing you need is where is it? A sample. Here, for example, here. Run anything LM curl command. This is the call of the function you saw before. And I just pass these strings, whatever you need. Then you can say, I would like to have it with a get as a get statement or a post. You can always call something like with get or post. If you retrieve data, you want something back, you use post. If you don't want you just set, for example, something, you use get. And if you use post and you would like to have some data passed with the curl statement, normally in curl you always have a parameter at the end -d. -d means data. Now is the payload of my command, and that you pass here. That's all you need. This here is the URL. This is post or get, and this is the payload, the parameters you pass. And it's really easy to be used, and you don't have to struggle. What it's also doing here is it's normally you need a header. Header is like an invisible part of a call to a machine. You see all the other thing you see, and then there is something hidden. And hidden, that's why it's H for header, H for header. And header is here is my key. That's the authentication against the API that it's me that I'm calling, and that's the header here. That is specific. So if you're using this function with another API, maybe you have to adjust the header. Everything else will work immediately with any other. It's very universal like this. That's all you need. Yeah. And you see, it's quite long to make this happen. This is only the anything LLM stuff, but it's all more or less always the same. I'm trying to make the functions smaller, then it's easier to be reused. For example, don't know whether I have a good one here. I try to make the final function is very universal. You can use it for whatever you like. And the functions before are more specific. For example, when I create a folder, my folder normally is called, I don't know, tbx file. And normally I don't have a function, create a folder named tbx file. I have a function called create a folder with any name. And then I have a second function with my specific name that calls the first function and giving the name and passes the name to it. That's why it's so long, maybe a little bit more confusing like that. Yeah, that's it. And I will finish it very soon, and then you can play around with it. But even without my stuff, I strongly advise you to try out anything LLM with LM Studio. It's incredible. If you have at least a powerful, not the oldest Mac, then it's really fun to do it.
Well, while you were speaking, I installed LM Studio, I installed AnythingLM, and downloaded the 70, whatever the 70-bit model, and I actually have it up and running in the last 20 minutes while you were talking. So
yeah, it's really
it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
But really hard for you at the beginning is to choose the right model. You have so many models here, and for example, to work with your own Tinderbox stuff, you need to find one that is capable of using external embedded files. It's not written here anyway, so you're trying out and then you're comparing the results. This is time consuming, so it takes some time. And then, for example, you have all the files. I'm using an external SSD hard disk to store them, and I play with them, and then I remove them and throw them away. For example, those LLM variants here, Meta, that's from Meta. They are more or less the same. This one is the largest model I managed to work on my Mac. I have an M2 Max, I think. And this is 37 megabytes. And you see here on the bottom, maybe you saw it here, that's the RAM and CPU usage. You can always monitor it here. It's taking some time, but it's no problem. You run it in the background and everything is fine. And it's really fun. You don't pay anything anymore for using LLMs. It's really fun.
So another question for you, Detlef. Yeah, so I just installed the 55 gigabyte Llama model and got it up and running the 20 minutes while you were talking, so that was cool. How does the local model know information though? Can you explain that just more theoretically? In like if it's running locally and I say what's the capital of Paris, how does it know, or France?
Yeah,
how does it know that when it's not going out to the internet?
You downloaded the data. That's the thing they trained the model with. And this 70B model means there is a lot of data in the model. 8B means there is less data in the model, less parameters in the model. But it's the models are. That's why I don't like the term intelligence with machines. It's not intelligence. It's brute force statistics, and they don't work without data. And so the data is already in this thing. That's the funny thing with DeepSeek. They claim that we use less hardware. We are much smarter than the US developers. We did it, and yeah, because they used data that was already there. and they rebuild their own large language model on it. But here in the models, here is all the data as a vector database, very, very compressed inside. But here is the data already in. So if you load any data, any of the models, and ask them, what can you tell me about Paris? You get an answer.
Very cool.
Some models don't do it, some don't work, but it's really important, for example, for your doctor thesis, that it's important to use your own files. And what the interface here with anything LLM also will do, and I just stripped it because it was easier for me. You get also references to the files it used for your answer. So if you pass 1,000 files into anything LLM, and then you get send a prompt to it based on your own data and get a result, you get also references to where did I find this answer in your own files. And so you can rework it and say, he found it in this file. Maybe I do a look up there. It's really, Mr. Lehmann, Zettelkasten 2.0, because you get structural information back from the LLM. Maybe you know Perplexity. That's also a very common system. They are doing more or less the same like anything LLM will offer you. And anything LLM, what you also could do, you can embed websites. For example, you have a website with very important information you need for your work. You can embed this, and then you ask based on the data on those websites, and it will give you stuff like that. And the vector database, what the system here is doing, it's more or less taking your content, dividing it into small parts in a special format, and build more or less a small local language model of your own data and attach it to the one that is already there. That's what embedding is doing here. Yeah.
Very cool.
That was my surprise for today.
Big surprise. Loved it.
Yeah, I hope you liked it, and you will see and get the code. And don't be afraid. You can really use. I tried to build the code so that you can use it. You just have to look into some small stems, 2 lines, 3 lines of code, nothing more, and you can use it. You can also use LLM, anything LLM from it, 2 or 3 lines of code. If you like, you can also step into the larger framework and try to understand what's going on there. I do comments there, and maybe you will do it. You will learn something from it. Yeah, I don't know.
A couple questions from both Marks.
Very quick one. I heard your point about saying you downloaded all these models and you had them on an external drive, presumably because of all the space. I presume the ones that you actually want to use, you have actually you're not using those on an external drive. Is it
also on the external drive, because that's the thing, it's loading it into memory.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that the external drive maybe is a little bit slower. It's all copied into memory.
Oh, that's really useful. So if I sort of just tell that back again. So in other words, you can have an awful lot of essentially, content of models and information that doesn't actually need to live permanently, effectively on your main running hard drive.
No.
Well, that's most useful. Well, thanks very much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Always. I learned so much from your files. You can ask thousands of questions, and still I'm in your favor. There was another one. Frederick.
I'm just a little confused about anything LLM and LLM workspace. Do you need to use them both together, or for your code, do you use them at all, or are they both alternatives? I'm a little confused here.
LM Studio is the engine to run a local language model locally on your machine. You can use LM Studio without anything LLM. Put in your prompts, and you use it like ChatGPT, exactly the same. LM Studio is your local ChatGPT engine. but you cannot easily embed files in LM Studio. You get a limited interface of what you can do. And AnythingLM is an addition that helps you to use your own files, and it uses the large language model running in LM Studio. So LM Studio is the back-end engine of AnythingLM. Or AnythingLM can run with whatever. You can also use other tools instead of LM Studio, but that's the concept. AnythingLM is an interface for you to use a large language model on your machine. It's not the engine that runs the large language model. It's just an interface for you to use it. And to get an improved, better way to use it, use your own files, have more configuration options and stuff like that.
So when I tried to install anything LLM, it asked me for the large language model, but it didn't ask me for LLM Studio. So I was a little confused.
Frederick, let me show you. I figured that out while we were talking. So if you go to the you open up anything LM, and then let you go back, click the gear, and where was it? Yeah, and then it's asking which model do you want to use, and then you can scroll down here and pick LM Studio.
Okay.
Okay, and then this is where I don't understand, Detlef. How do I pick the llama model that I installed? Or maybe I don't need to, but
no, normally it should pop up there. If it's running, it should be available there. Maybe it's an update thing. Maybe you have to restart anything. It should be there.
I'll restart the machine. But I installed this 70-bit instruct, and it's interesting having the local model. I asked it about Tinderbox, and it started talking about something. I said, well, no, it's actually from Mark Bernstein. It says, yeah, you're correct. And so I'm having this whole conversation about Tinderbox on the local LLM.
Locally.
No, locally. Yeah,
that's very important. Can you go back to the AnythingLM? There's another one that's really important. You see, yeah, there's this chat mode and query. I'm using query from Tinderbox. Then it's using only your own data to answer the prompt.
Got it.
If you're using chat, it's also using the data of the LLM itself.
Got it.
That's really important.
Okay, and you said this should be showing me the llama model.
Yeah, it should.
So I've got to restart my machine maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe click on the little work tool on the left on bottom. Down. Yeah, click there. Yeah.
That one.
No, the right one. Yeah. Okay, click on AI provider on top. LLM. Okay.
Maybe pick there.
Yeah, and then loading available models. You see on the left.
Yeah.
And now it should be there sometimes.
I'll have to start. I'll restart my machine. I'm sure there's a lot going on.
Yeah. But there you should be able to select the models, and then it will also appear in the workspace.
Yeah.
It's just you have to reload it.
Perfect. Mr. Bernstein, your hand's been up for a while, and then we've got Bruce. You're on mute.
Yeah. Now I'm not. This is a great example, as was last week's, of the amazing things that you can build inside Tinderbox around small functions. The functions themselves are like, you look at them like they're straightforward, and a relatively small number of small functions flocking together can do really astonishingly cool stuff. So thank you for actually making this work.
Hey, and Mark, on that note, let me give you another example while we're chatting here on that. And this is not as impressive as to what Detlef just showed us, but here's an example of doing just that. So here's a library of small functions that basically say, what I want you to do is go collect all of these variables from your notes, and then I want you to check if there's covers. I want you to open up a list. I want you to close a list. So I've developed basically a recursive function then that allows you to be able to build lists from your notes. So if you want to actually build a hierarchy of lists from your notes, and what that list allows you to do is, so if I were to go here, I don't think I have on my, let me install the normal HTML template. So if I go ahead here and say, let me just look at this, the traditional kind of linear view of a notes applying a template, you can do that. But then I said, well, wait a minute, I want to say, have different attributes that I want to have built for my lists. I want to be able to control what's shown on my lists. And so this template that I built just simply grabs the list library, collects all the notes, and then using the various booleans that it sets, you're able to create dynamic lists. So this way I can, from the cover, I can go and say, look, I just want the bulleted lists, and now I can copy that and paste it into a PowerPoint, for example, or maybe I want to add the category that's coming from those items. And so these lists can be then dynamically generated. And then one thing that comes out of that same idea is this, where you then can use macros to basically say, go grab me the list macro, grab the ID number of the note you want to pull from, and then feed in the different Boolean flags that I was just showing you. And now you can be surgically placing into your document any list you want anywhere in your document. And all of that's being driven from about, to your point that you just made, from about 7 or 8 little micro functions that basically call those pieces together. So it's pretty cool. And then using the installer example that we talked about earlier, you can then easily add that capability into any Tinderbox document, and it automatically works. And if I initialize the library by slightly editing the text, you now can have that list functionality show up into any document. And that's just from a handful of functions.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, real quickly, both of you, it's just awesome what you guys are able to do and extend Tinderbox. Detlef, I really want to thank you for your tools that you provide. It's just an awesome amount of work and amount of giving you do. So I really appreciate it. Michael, the same to you. You give so much back to the community. So thank you both. My question is real simple, and I think I know the answer. I believe you have to use a file to embed, right? You can't use copy and paste selected text into these local models. They still require you to save the file into a folder and then tell it where it is. It's not like Claude where you can just paste it in, correct?
No, you have to use a text file because it's persistence. It needs to be there, and copy and paste is more like the prompt itself. Then you can maybe for example, the assistant framework, and don't forget it. It's also very powerful. There you copy and paste simply your instruction. You don't have to need a file there. You copy and paste also longish instructions, and it will work. For embedding, you embed files normally.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions?
Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce.
Just quickly, because I know we're over time. So Detlef, I mean, this is another tiger by the tail episode for me. I can't wait to watch the recording again. So I notice I've mentioned in the past that I've been using Google Gemini Advanced, and now they've opened some other engines up. And I noticed that none of that is mentioned in any of your examples. Is it possible to embed the Google LLM within this, or is that a separate ecosphere?
Parts from Google are open source. You need open source. The developer of the LLM, OpenAI or Google or Meta, have to make it public available, and they are not doing it with all models, and that's what you are limited in. But many models are there, and normally for scientific work, especially on your own data, even the smaller ones will work perfectly, because it's like having a new tool just to make an research on your own data. You don't need all the backend data most of the time, but yeah, you are limited to the LLM has to be available. There is
Okay.
a place called Hugging Face. That's what LM Studio is referencing, where you find all those models and you have to look there what's going on. And it's a really dynamic environment. Every day a new LLM will be pasted there and posted there and be available. And it's really giving me trouble to find the one I would like to work with, because sometimes you get, at least for Llama, that's the one from Meta, from Facebook. I think they have at least, I don't know, 60 variants. And to test them all, to see what's the difference, what is working better with your data, is really problematic. And then you also have the thing that, for example, if you work with a model, normally you can adjust, for example, the temperature. It's called temperature. You can make the answers more predictable or more variable, more open to the answer. And both ways in special use cases can be the way to go. And so you have a lot of space to experiment with your large language. It's not that you just install the tools, use a large language model of your whatever you like, and it will immediately work like you would like to do it. The people who are out, yeah, please.
That's helpful, and that's where I'm getting overwhelmed, and also because the privacy aspect of what I do, Google at least assures me that with a HIPAA compliant account, it's not publishing anything, it's not using anything outside. And so recently, for example, I told it to take 7 different reports on a particular patient and tell me what symptoms in order of priority were most prevalent across all 7 reports. 20 seconds later, I had my answer. The answer was absolutely on target. Would have taken me 3 hours to do that.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, going forward, once we get this this local LLM modeling set up, you won't even have to go to Google. You can do it locally on your machine.
Yep.
And then
This has been great. I can't wait to
use
play.
like little snitch to monitor the LLM to make sure for yourself that it's actually not going out to the internet.
Yep.
Nice. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, well, before we leave, there's I've had a problem for like 3 weeks, and I literally spent like 20, 30 hours trying to solve it, and freaking Mark Bernstein solved it for me this morning, or Anderson, like in 45 minutes this morning. So Mark, would you mind walking us through? I want to show the problem, and then can you I just want to share this with everyone, and I say that lovingly, by the way, when I say freaking Mark Anderson, I'm like, you just it's amazing. But let me show you the problem I was having is because I go back and forth between the native processor of Tinderbox and Markdown in my writings. I've been needing, and I've been figuring out ways of exporting my text to a variable, processing it and working it through. And the challenge I was struggling with that is when I do that, the relative references of the images weren't showing up. So if I'm on an individual note, it worked great. But if I was on the full note, it was not. And that's because the image referencing wasn't happening. And so what Mark figured out for me this morning is if if he or we produce and use a local variable, pass that local variable for the root of the image, and then have Tinderbox post-process how the relative referencing paths for the images, it actually works. So you can solve the problem that I've been having simply by, essentially sending the information to a string and then post-processing that. So can you explain this?
Okay, so the one of the things that's happening here is Michael has his images stored in a note. It doesn't matter particularly if they're stored in a note or on the hard drive. When you preview, say, note 3, the HTML is created and it knows its relative location. I think it's easiest to think of this in terms of export. I know we're looking at preview, but preview is just exporting without export. But think of it in export terms. And as Mark Bernstein quite rightly pointed out in a sort of thread on this earlier, is always look at the export. If you click the preview and it doesn't look right, before clicking back to text, look at the export, because that will show you. And what you see is, so in the two things there, you'll see that the path in the HTML of the one consolidated note, the path to the reference, the image, is different. Now, what is easy to overlook here is, so we're looking at note 1, that's basically including the content of note 2, content of note 3, content of note 4. But as far as the preview, the web page is concerned, when it loads it, it goes away, and the image is called in at the time you render it. So that's fine, and that's just how a normal web page works. But what's happened is, as each of the included subnotes is turned into HTML, it records the note's relative position to the image rather than note 1's relative position.
So it's recording note 3's relative position of the image, not note 1's relative to position.
Yeah, so basically that's why when the render happens, so there isn't an image at that location, because it's at goodness knows where. In fact, what's generally happening is its relative path is taking it right out of the top of the known universe of the file, so we get nothing back. The bit that took me a while to figure was that, and I know because I've been discussing this with Mark for a while, with Michael for a while, that he also wants to do things like look at, say, note 3, or note 2, and see note 2, 3, and 4. Because what's going on here is something that isn't everybody's task, but there's a combination here of looking at parts of a report, and also where the templates are doing quite a bit of the heavy lift. So you're in and out of the preview quite a lot. So what I worked out is that essentially what you want is one level less than the export to root. So if you're note 2, your path to the resource folder is sort of ... / resource folder. If you're a level down, it's ... / and then the resource folder. So that's what the math is going on there. Why it's -1, I think this is sort of whether you start at 0 or start at 1. But anyway, that little sum gives you the right thing. It looks a bit odd because what I'm actually doing is working out a number. So I'm taking outline depth, subtracting 1. So if I'm at outline depth 3, which would be note 3, for instance, then I get 3 minus 1, which is 2, and then there's a multiplication sign, and then an actual string. And what that actually does is it just says, give me that string twice over. So instead of ... / I get ... / twice over. And that then, when inserted, gives all the notes the right path. And I'm saving it in a TBX config, because if you just select the child template to that, Michael, here we don't make the calculation. We just say, what I want to know is where is the relative location of the resource folder from this sort of cascades root. So if you're clicking on note 3, the root is note 3. If you're clicking on note 1, the root is note 1. So that's what's being stored in the TBX config, and then all the descendant notes in the cascade just go and look at that value, and then lo and behold, everything works.
And I've validated this on a file, a few hundred notes with multiple levels of embedded images, and it works great. And the one thing that kind of took me for a loop for a minute was this idea that you could have a number multiplied by a string and getting multiples of that string back. And I actually think that's really interesting, and I've never seen that before in the 5 years I've been working at this. So
Mark, maybe there may be a more elegant way. I mean, the way I sorted this out is, first of all, I looked at the HTML. I thought, aha, I see what's happening. We're getting the wrong path. Then I thought, I know the way to do this in export code. I use _root. But the general convention is that we don't use export code in action code. And although this is a template, we're in an action section. So we're writing action code. So how do I do the same thing? Well, what root basically gives you is a number of .. / strings of various length to get you the relative navigation across the website you're exporting. So I'm effectively simulating the root function here. You could wrap, I mean, to be honest, I was in a hurry and Michael was after an answer. I think a more elegant way probably would to wrap that up into a function so it's sort of neatly stored away. But this.
But yes and no. I mean, because part of the reason why I like them embedded in the templates is when I'm sharing the templates with others, I'm limiting the number of files that need to be shared. And so by doing it like this, I can share one file and it all works versus multiple, or one note versus multiple function libraries and all that. But I just wanted to point this out because if anybody, hopefully this will save somebody else 2 or 3 weeks worth of work for 5 lines of code. So it's it took a while to get to the problem and to really finally really understand and appreciate the problem, but now we have a solution. So this ideally will work for anybody down the road trying to map relative references for images.
Well, just quickly, as you're here, Mark, is that sort of a inelegant way of doing it, or is that essentially
the way to do it?
Approach?
No, I think that makes sense. If you wanted to be a little bit more elegant, you could actually define a function inside the action, and that would make your intent a little bit clearer. But no, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it works great. So yay, thank you very much. And I wanted to share that with everyone so that it doesn't get lost and it's been recorded in the in our library of solutions. All right, well, this has been super fun. Thank you very much. And Bruce, when you're ready for the images, come back and we'll get that solved for you. And Detlef, this is just great and awesome. And thank you, everyone. Really
Thanks so
enjoyed
much.
today.
Great session.
Yep.
See you. Bye-bye.
Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.